Okay.
All right. Welcome to the second episode of The Dancer's Beat. I'm your host, BRETT DAVENPORT. We're going to be taking a look at the inside look of the dance competition world, where we're going to have some of the top names in the world of dance give us the inside scoop so teachers, dancers, and coaches can get some inside information behind the curtain of the dance competition world. Today's episode is going to focus on the Shake the Ground National Dance Competition, and we're very fortunate to have two of the top names in the world of dance today. Our first guest is Kelly King, the lovely Kelly King. She is a former Radio City Rockette. She has danced on the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, The Tonight Show, to Today Show, Lincoln Center. She choreographs at the University of South Florida currently. And this ties into our next guest. She was just choreographing with Boss Kids, correct? And we just happened to have...
Yes, I was working with his infamous kids.
Yes, and we just happened to have the CEO of Boss Kids, a cultural icon from Atlantic City. He has danced with J Blige, Usher, Beyonce, and is the director of the Brooklyn Nets Dance Kids. And like I said, the CEO of his very own company, Boss Kids. Please welcome JONA BIDDLE. All right. So we're
Hello,
gonna...
everyone.
Legend.
We've got two icons in the house today. Very fortunate. So we're going to get right into our questions here. So one thing that we want to get into is that we're going to be bringing master classes back to the actual competitions that Shake the Ground. First of all,
Okay.
what do you think the importance of having classes at competition are? And what are some things you typically see as teachers that you want to see your students doing in those classes, and what are some things that you see routinely that, for lack of a better word, might be a pet peeve of yours, or something that you consistently see that dancers are doing where they're not maybe presenting the best selves, and if they had some information about those kinds of things that they could show up as their best selves in classes? It's a
She's
lot.
like a four-parter question, huh?
Yeah, take it however you want. Break it apart. Answer whatever part of it you want.
I'll start with that first part about bringing the master classes back to the competitions, because I think it's really important for the kids after they're getting critiqued and judged by us that they get to understand like what we're actually looking for in the class when they hear their critiques back. And that when that happens immediately after and then they get their critiques, it helps them understand where we were coming from when we were judging their solo or their group dances. And I think it's important for them when they come to these competitions that they get to immediately feel that they're getting educated at the same time by us.
Okay, Jonah, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think the master classes are so valuable to the dancers. Like Kelly said, once they're on the stage being critiqued for their routines and their solos and group dances, it gives them a chance to see the instructors and the masterminds, the choreographers, the educators are at the nationals to see what our thought process is, what we expect from dancers. Um, Understanding movement, and I'm always talking to dancers in the mic about telling a story. That's lost nowadays because they're learning so much that we're not really, if it's called movement in the river, sometimes I don't feel like they're sticking with what that storyline is. So it gives you a chance to kind of be around those artists and see how they're breaking down choreography to help you now understand how to better move when you're performing this routine. Maybe later in the weekend something will click in them from listening to what the teachers were saying in classes as well.
Okay, and that I guess brings me to my next question. You were talking about dancers telling a story and how that's kind of lost. Do you think that might have something to do with? Is there sometimes a disconnect? Maybe there's an age, a dance. It's maybe not appropriate for the dancer's age in terms of the story is a bit more, it's a little deep for someone who's maybe 8, 9 years old. Do you see that happening sometimes where maybe they're not being set up for success in that way because the story is just, you need a certain amount of life experience to tell that kind of story or to understand that kind of story emotionally?
1000%. And I think that's something that's a little bit of a pet peeve for me, I will say, because I think things at this time of day and age, they need to be age appropriate. So you can't expect somebody who's 8 or 9 to take a very serious solo or a topic matter and be able to relate to that on stage. So then what it becomes is we're just watching them recite the steps that were given to them because either that topic was too mature to go into it. And then you'll have the older kids who they might understand what the topic is, but the whole solo is based around the tricks. You know, sometimes what we really are looking for on stage is the artistry. We're looking for the intention and the artistry behind the group or the duet or the trio or the solo. You know, so I think the storytelling, like Jonah says, is extremely important, but you have to pick appropriate things according to the age of what you're dealing with and what you're working with.
Yeah. Jonah, any
For
thoughts?
me, when I go to me and Kelly and I travel to a lot of places and do solos for children. I will typically ask, what kind of music do the kid listen to? Or can you send me some footage of them performing last year so I can just get a little familiar in how they move so I can create something custom to what they're able to do. So I think as instructors or studio directors, just be mindful who's choreographing each number too for each child. Because sometimes we're not connecting and we're just giving them a bunch of routines and a bunch of movement, but is it really connective to that particular style, not style but to that child and their abilities? I think that's important too.
Yeah, as someone who comes from the acting world and is not from the dancing world initially, when I'm watching a dance sometimes and I see a dancer where you can tell they've kind of painted the emotion on their face, but you can tell there's a disconnect. It's like it's not going into the brain and the heart and showing on the face. It's just being painted on the face, and you can even someone who's not a dance aficionado can kind of tell. Um, so back to judging. You all, the two of you, and all of our judges have generally a forte or a specialty that they are, that they grew up dancing in, that they competed in, and they typically do choreography for. How do you then, because at Shake we're dealing with tap, we're dealing with, I mean, we'll occasionally have clogging, we have hip hop, we have ballet, we have musical theater, we have everything. How do you translate your understanding of your particular specialty? In Jonah's case, hip hop. How do you then go ahead and judge a ballet dance or a musical theater dance? Can you talk a little bit about your
Well,
personal? Yeah,
the beautiful thing about dance is, especially as an instructor who teaches at so many different studios, I've been able to have friends who work in every genre of styles. So I watch how they teach. I listen to the vocabulary. Even sometimes on the judges table, we hear each other critiquing. So I have grown so much from building vocabulary, one off just being amongst so many educators, but it's all connective too. As a hip hop dancer, we use our plie, we turn, we they're definitely disconnected with hip hop and like other styles. So I feel like for me, I'm always forcing myself to learn more, even though my specialty is hip hop. I bring in so many different types of educators into my space. I'm always watching different kinds of shows, movies. I live in New York, so I get to go see Broadway. I get to go to the movies. I get to really immerse myself into the art. So it allows me to be able to critique people because I I'm a visionary. I can see the whole picture, even if I'm not efficient in a style. If I had to put a whole show together, I'll say, "Hey, Kelly, I need you to do section point five through here. You're going to do so I know how to put a show together and even visually say this is what I want to see. I may not necessarily know how to execute it, but visually I can see it. So when I'm watching dances and I'm seeing particular movements, I know what that line should look like. So if you're not hitting that mark or hitting that moment, I that's where I'm coming from, that kind of approach when I'm judging. I'm going for the overall picture, and really like giving them feedback on how I feel like it could have been stronger in those in specific moments, because sometimes I think these dancers for their ages are really performing extremely well,
yeah.
but there's little things I feel like are missing. So I try to come from that standpoint of, if I was just a regular person in the audience, what would I give them feedback on? What is something I feel was lacking? So it's for me, I kind of focus on performance, versus like technical when it comes to a different style that I'm unfamiliar with.
Okay, Kelly.
I think for me, it's like because I have so many styles in my background. It's contemporary, it's jazz, it's musical theater, it's all of those things. So I actually just gave a mock audition class the other day and I gave them immediate feedback after we did the combination. What I look for not only is just like the personality, but I'm also looking for your technique, how you're articulating the movement, the phrasing, and the texturization. There's so much that goes into dancing and having the overall picture. So when you get these dancers sometimes that focus on one thing, we've got to make the overall picture happen all together, whether it is in hip hop. And if I'm judging hip hop, I know if you're really hitting that articulation, if you're isolating, if you should be popping, if you're on the music, if you're behind the music. So I'm able to kind of take my background from the jazz and contemporary and the commercial world, and I'm able to kind of put it when I'm judging hip hop. And also, I have a lot of peers who do hip hop, and I learn. I'm always learning. I watch them in class. I hear how they talk. I hear how they're training their dancers, so that if I am judging hip hop, I feel very confident in what I'm doing outside of all the other genres that I do.
I think that's interesting, and a good thing for dancers to know is that you guys are actually working together then and learning from each other to help, be more efficient or better at understanding a different style of dance. So I think
It's
that's
The
huge.
beautiful
I
thing
think
is me
it's
and
huge
Kelly
to like
both
support. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Jonah.
Kelly and I met at Shake the Ground 9 years ago
Yeah.
at the judges table. Never met this woman. And she would tell you I was super quiet at first. Like I was just there to do my job. And I think we made a joke.
Yeah.
Something. We looked at each other and we just started laughing. And from that
Ellie
moment,
making jokes
that
at the
friendship built. And the way we judge, we feed off each other at the table.
yeah.
Like she helps me throughout the process, and I helped her through the process, sitting at that table for a long time. And I learned a lot from her, and she learned a lot from me. Not just from even the judge's standpoint, life, we really have built a beautiful relationship.
Yeah.
So I think that's what's lost in dance, building community.
Yeah.
That's important to have that community around you and learn from each other.
Do you think that's maybe
We always talk
oh,
about that.
go ahead, Kelly.
We always talk about that, me and Jonah, that we met 9 years ago, and our friendship has like literally just grown and grown and grown. But like he said, not just in the arts and about learning from one another in the arts, either about like social media, filming, choreography, but like life in general. And we support each other. I think it's really important in this day and age that choreographers support each other. You learn from one another because you learn from watching, you learn from listening. And that's the beautiful thing in the dance world and in the arts world.
Yeah. I also think too, both of you, your energy kind of emanates throughout, the competition. I think at Shake, we are putting on a live dance show. We're putting on a live event. And both of you have great energy, both on stage when you're doing the awards and at the competition, your reaction to the dances. And I think you both have that kind of magnetic energy that actually really enhances the show that I, as a host, really appreciate. Um, so we were talking earlier about the classes. Now at Shake, we see dancers sometimes. I mean, there's some dancers that I feel like we see them like 5, 6 times throughout the year. They'll be at West Palm Beach, then they'll be at Tampa, then they'll be in Orlando, and then they'll be at Nationals. Is when you see a dancer multiple times and you've given them critiques now 3, 4 times, are you then, with your judging process, if you've seen someone multiple times, are you then saying to yourself, all right, I need to see some implementation of the feedback I've already given multiple times? And if that's not happening, why do you think that's not happening? And is that affecting your process when you've seen them the third, fourth, or fifth time?
I mean, for me, yeah, I would say if I see a dancer 4 times in a row, let's say, for example, a dancer is coming to multiple cities and they're doing the same solo, okay?
Mhm.
And I've critiqued it once and then I critique it twice. By that third time, I felt like I have somehow developed some sort of relationship on that feedback in the microphone with them that I can get a little bit more intimate in the fact of saying, like, hey, so those last 2 times I saw you do your solo, why don't we start working on this for this? The point of judging a dancer is to elevate them, it's to inspire them to keep elevating up, right? We're not there to be like, well, we told you this already. It's like, okay, well, you fixed this, but like, let's maybe work on this. So that's how I look at it. Every time I see a dancer, I wait to see, okay, well, I saw you in this city, so I'm seeing you in this city. Did you listen to my critiques and did you implement them? And if they've implemented them, then that's amazing. And if they haven't, then you gently have to figure out a way to kind of go back, reiterate what it is that you've said so that they understand. And then you have to hope that the coach or the choreographer is implementing the correction you've given them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Jonah, anything on that?
I agree. I don't get to go to multiple cities like I used to, but I do see multiple dancers on stage over course of the weekend. So I can tell sometimes. I think nowadays I think kids have too many dances, maybe. Because if you are struggling with the two or three on the stage, why did you need nine? You know. So that could be a thing too. I own my own business. I own a dance company, and we actually stopped competing for a while just to kind of focus on training because I was focused so much on just throwing out so many routines that they're not even getting strong in just taking class. So I think that's why the classes are so valuable because the kids are focusing so much on just the routines they're going to perform, and then that's all they're getting all year. They're not getting to. In New York, we have steps, BDC, Alvinelli, so you can take a class every day, any time of day. When you're at a smaller town, you don't have that option. So when they come to the conventions, I think the classes are so important because it's giving them, oh my God, I thought I was really good at this style, but now they're realizing that they don't pick up other things quicker. And that's probably why I think you don't need nine solos. Pick your best three, pick your best couple of group dances and make those your strong points. Because there's no reason why we're giving you the same feedback six or seven times. Maybe
Right.
pick out the ones over the regional season that were the ones the judges really enjoy and focus on making those stronger for nationals. That would be my kind of feedback for that, especially kids who are not necessarily getting the points or the status they want at the competitions. Maybe have to kind of take, I don't think kids nowadays are taking accountability too. Like, oh dang, I messed up on that turn. Or, like I see when we give out awards how mad they get, and we're not giving you that number or that status because we want to. That's kind of how you perform that number that day.
Yeah.
So I really think it's just about really taking the feedback, applying it, and maybe making changes each time you go to a different city. It shouldn't look the same every time you go to each city.
Yeah.
I was encouraged soloists to change it up every time.
Okay. Kelly, did you want to add on to
I
it?
think to kind of piggyback on that, like Jonah was saying, like, they don't get the chance to like take the classes because at some point during their season at their studio, that is their focus. Their focus are their competition routines, their group routines, their solo routines, whether there's 10, 20, 15. That's why when you come to Shake Nationals, they're so excited because they are just getting inundated with classes from me, from Jonah, from Alan, the people that they have been judged by throughout the season. They're finally getting in that room with us and they get to experience like where we are with our critiques, and like they understand where Kelly King is when she's like talking about your artistry and your intention and what it is about you that when you leave this room, you put 150%. It's not for the accolades, but that you took away for that hour with me. And I think going back to you telling us like we're going to start implementing the classes at the competitions, I think that's great because again, it shows them how we work, how our minds think after we've been critiquing them.
Yeah. And I think it's also important for the dancers to know that, yeah, you are the judges and you are adjudicating and all that, but you are invested in their journey and you are rooting for every one of them, and you do have an emotional connection to them. It's just a human thing that you've been, especially when you get in class with them and then you've seen them perform. And I think maybe it's tough, especially for a younger person, to see you guys not just as their judge, but as someone who is genuinely invested in their journey and rooting for them. And I think that's important for them to know.
Yeah.
So back to, I guess, actually, this brings me to another question. This is an issue that we have with dancers from time to time. One, we have the dancer, as we say at the beginning of every competition, the judges reserve the right to alter a dancer's level status if you all agree that this dancer is clearly in a different level. Sometimes we have an issue with that where a dancer will say, or a teacher or a coach will say, well, my dancer's only been dancing for X amount of years. That's why they're in the intermediate level. If they were in intermediate, they would have won that division. But because you all bumped them up to competitive, now my dancer got 5th place or 6th place or whatever. How do you think maybe there's a different way that a dancer could reframe that in their minds when that kind of thing happens, where it's like, okay, yeah, maybe you didn't win the competition this week, but is there maybe a better way to view that when that happens, and why does that happen?
I feel like the way a dancer could kind of reframe that is like, let's say you're in the intermediate division, right? And I'm judging or somebody, and we're looking at each other because the dancer is very good, right? Which is a positive. These are all positive things. And we're like, well, she should go up to the competitive. I feel like that dancer, instead of, I don't want to say focusing on the win for the intermediate division, but being like, wow, they actually thought I should be elevated up into a higher division, to try to take that and turn that around as a positive and work toward that for the next competition. That's the weird area where, is it about the win or is it about elevating your dance? Does
Yeah,
that make sense?
yeah, yeah. Jonah?
Yeah, I think they focusing on the wrong. We're in a very sensitive time now where everyone takes things. And I work with kids every day. I coach kids, and I will say this the nicest thing, but they'll go home and tell their parents something totally different than what I said, or the
Completely
tone is
different.
different.
Yeah.
So we're moving them up. That's only because we think that they're doing extremely well and we want them to be challenged. That's the point of coming to the competition. It's not to come and well, clearly, if you stayed in that category, you would have won. But we thought you were that great that we wanted to put you up there against some kids we think that's where you should be. And that should strive for you to be even better than where you think you are. And we trying to get people to stop being complacent. When we see someone that's a star, you have to now push them,
Yeah,
right? And I think that's the communication's being missed. They're not realizing that we're coming from a positive a space. That's why we're there for 5 days or 4 days
right.
judging you, because we want to see you walk away with a great experience and feel good about yourself.
Yeah. And I think for, we're all in the entertainment industry. And I think for any of these dancers who want to go on to have a professional career in the entertainment industry, you're going to be constantly pushed outside your comfort zone. It's almost never going to be comfortable. And you're going to have to, especially if you're someone who is the best in your division or whatever, you're going to have to find ways to push yourself beyond your boundaries, because when you get to the professional world, as you both know, as we all know, that's going to happen for you, whether you do it yourself or not. So yeah, did you want to add?
Yeah. I talk a lot about, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I did. Did you want to add?
I want to add, because I talk a lot about in my classes elevation, and that's really what we're trying to do at these competitions. Every city that we go to, we're trying to elevate you. But I kind of use this thing in my class, whether you're intermediate, you're competitive, you're 15 to 17, you're 12 to 13. When you come into the class, the goal for you should be elevating by the end of that hour or the end of that hour and a half. What we're trying to do is we're elevating you, but you, the dancer, has to know how to do that for yourselves from within.
Yeah,
Because you're not always going to have your teacher there or me there or Jonah there being like, it's being getting spiritual in the classroom with you and being like, elevation, we're taking you, say, I'm going to take you here, but you got to work with me to take you here. So it's almost like, it's a partnership between the dancer and the choreographer, the dancer and the teacher, wherever you go.
yeah. That's excellent. Okay, so the next question we're going to get into are what are the main differences you see in the levels between novice, intermediate, competitive, and then also this year we're adding the mini movers division, ages 3 to 5. I guess we'll start there. When you're first of all, anytime I see someone who's 3 years old go on stage, I am blown away that they're even on stage. First of all.
Correct. Yeah.
We'll start with for the new division, the mini movers, 3 to 5. How should instructors approach competition for dancers that are that young? And then maybe after we get into that, compare that to the other levels and how those levels should be approached.
Well, when you're that young, we know that you're not going to comprehend a lot of movement. That's number
Yeah,
one. So you give them the basic foundation things when they're that young. Cute little like
yeah,
little turn. Really about just it's about showmanship. Number one, at that
yeah,
point, you can't expect them to do too much.
right.
So I think this just really giving them that confidence that that's that those beginning stages. Do they want to really do this? I mean, some 4 to 5, 6 year olds are really spunky and they have
Yeah,
that natural ability to go out there and command a stage. But for me, it's like just give them the foundation, the basics. Of really, and it's all about personality at that age as well.
Kelly.
I mean, I really have to really just agree with Jonah on everything he said because, first of all, every time somebody that young walks out on stage, I'm just like gagged. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah,
Like, they're like little, like, oh, I can't even take it. Like, I'm just like, and then the second part of my thought process, I just get like, so like, oh, I just want to squeeze you. The second part of my thought process is like, wow, they're really out on stage by themselves, like trying to hit a pose, maybe do a hip on a certain count. And I mean, if they can accomplish that,
yeah,
we're happy. You know what I mean? But I think too, at that age, it's very important that the owner or the director and the teacher, they're making that a positive. You know what I mean? Because you're either going to get that little one who's scared and then they freak out on stage, or you're going to get that one that goes out on stage and they are just in their comfort zone
mhm,
at 3, 4, 5 years old. I think it's just too cute. I can't take it.
yeah. And to Jonah's point, I mean, sometimes you can tell when they walk out there, they could be 3, 4, 5 years old, but they're a star. And like
Yes. Oh
you can
yeah.
tell, you can tell that's where they want to be. And I think that for me, again, as someone as an observer who's not a dance expert, that is a big thing I notice in general. Is the people, the dancers who want to be there, it is evident the minute they step out on stage, and it sets. I mean, as an audience member, like Jonah was saying earlier, the story. When a dancer wants to be there and they're telling a story, the audience isn't noticing, the intricacies of a technique. They're just like, wow, I was told a story. I was taken on an emotional journey. What we kind of touched on that, but how would you say that is? Where would you rank that in terms of the importance when you're judging a competition in terms of the levels? Start with the novice, intermediate, and competitive. How much of it is the story, and then how much are you focusing on technique within those levels?
I mean, you want me to? I can
Yeah,
start. Novice it's a tricky one because you have to remember novice they're beginners. So the fact that maybe they're a little older and they're coming out on stage to do a solo, that might be the biggest um scary thing for them, not even just getting out and doing the choreography. So for novice, I look at a little bit of the technique, but I also want to see like how they are connecting to what they've been given to do. Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah,
Because you have to really keep in mind too that some of them haven't even gone out on stage before. That's why they're in the novice category.
yeah,
I mean, so you have to kind of keep those are the things that I keep in the back of my mind. I'll look at the technique, I'll look at the personality, I'll look and see where their comfort zone is with it and being out on stage by themselves. Some do very well with it, and some you can tell when they come out on stage, it's gonna be a hit or a miss.
yeah. Jonah.
I actually just taught at a studio a few weeks ago for a novice team, and it's first time doing a number ever. They're more musical theater actors. Um, the biggest thing I instilled in them was confidence, and that's my favorite word to use. It's confidence. If you are an actor, singer, and you're now going into a new genre, you already have the confidence because to get on stage and recite lines and things like that already shows me that you have the tools to step it up. So for a novice category, I'm focusing on again confidence. You can when they walk on stage, if they walk in like this, you already know, oh Lord, they're gonna have they're not they're already in their head. The confidence is from the moment you walk out on that stage. So I'm already watching that. I'm also
Correct.
watching for how they connect into the music. Because again, I make my kids study the music. Did y'all listen to the music? What was it about? What was that beat on? Like, that's lost too. Are the teachers really giving them, like, we're hitting this beat? we're hitting that beat. You can tell when there's certain studios where I don't care what level they're at, they're all their kids understand. So it's, again, how whoever is their studio director, you got to treat every level the same. It can't just be your studio brings out the best intermediate and competitive levels. Your novice should even be strong. So for me, I really want I give them the same. I want the same intention from the novice that I would see in all categories. And again, that just comes from the studios, the choreographers, and really tailoring your choreography to those specific students and making sure that they're comfortable when they're on that stage. And that's when I'm making my kind of decision when I'm judging, like on how they are as a unit, how they're working together. Because most times, novice is not going to have really intricate movement. Most time they're going to give them very beginner movements, and I will see how they're going to take that elevate it. Because you can take a routine that's not so necessarily difficult and make it look spectacular.
Yeah.
And I've seen that at Shake many times. Where I'm like, wow, that's a novice. They're a novice.
Yeah.
So it's really not about the category. It's about how you are as a unit and how you approach the movement.
Yeah. And as a performer of any kind, it's just like if there's one thing you could just inject someone with, it's confidence, because a belief in yourself can overcome a lot of any kind of inadequacy, really. So let's get back. Let's get into scholarships now. We there's a story that someone that works for our company is told that they had a competition where they didn't necessarily score all that well, especially for how they were accustomed to scoring, but they ended up getting a scholarship that kind of changed their life. Um, how, when you're handing out scholarships, what is your kind of thought process there? Because it's not always necessarily the person that scored the highest. Obviously, different schools are different, looking for different things. There's different skills that a dancer may have that maybe the routine they did that day or the solo they did that day didn't necessarily score the highest or whatever, or they didn't feel that great about it, but they end up getting a scholarship. So what is your, I guess, what is your process when it comes to scholarships, and how is that differentiated from like just giving a score?
Well, I think there's awards, there's trophies. The scholarships are for sometimes for me it's for the kids who's like almost there. But just probably need that little push, right? Like, dang, you're really, really good. But if you go, the Joffrey program is looking for a couple of dancers. That's what they're gonna need to make them even more confident in their style. So I think the scholarships is another incentive for those who may not necessarily be like top three, top five, top whatever.
Okay.
But they're there. They're like, it could be that little missing thing that could help them improve in areas. So I
Okay.
think it's important when I'm looking at deciding on a scholarship. It's like, let's give that dancer who was like, we like them, but we thought that girl was really good. But I think if she just got a little bit more in this area, it would have made her probably smoke this one. You know, it's like
Yeah.
it's an incentive. Again, we're always trying to think how can we make that dancer feel good about themselves, even though they may not necessarily gonna be one of the top today, but they still were one of the top that we saw this weekend. So I
Okay.
think that's the value of the scholarships.
I think that's helpful for them to know. Kelly?
I think when I'm giving out scholarships, I kind of stop thinking about the scoring at that part, at that time. Because when I'm giving out a scholarship, you've actually done something that I feel has like moved me inside to be like, oh, this person can go even further. It doesn't matter what that score is, because let's be honest and let's be realistic. You don't have to get a high score to be a professional in the industry, right? Getting that medal or that high score isn't what's going to get you on Broadway or get you on TV. These are just the stepping grounds. So sometimes when I'm thinking about scholarships and this girl came out, and for me, if she moved me or moved the judges with a story or her artistry, but then maybe her technique wasn't that amazing, but we all like are like, yeah, let's give her this scholarship to Joffrey Contemporary or Joffrey Jazz or something like that. So for me, the scholarships, I take the score out of my head when I'm doing them, because now I'm basing it on the actual individual on stage and what they have done for themselves and what they have done for me. So if I'm giving you a scholarship, period, you've done something to move me with your dancing.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that's important to, like you said, I mean, different schools are also looking for different types of dancers. Different programs are looking for different types of dancers. And I think it's very difficult sometimes for a dancer who's especially maybe a bit of a perfectionist to kind of understand that, yeah, you know, you may have had a great score or whatever, but you know, Joffrey is looking for this type of dancer, another school is looking for that type of dancer, and it's not necessarily about that. One thing
I think you have to keep in mind too, like, go ahead.
no, you go ahead. You go ahead, Kelly.
I think you just said something really important too, but it's like, you know, Joffrey might be looking for this, but when it comes down to it, and let's say that dancer is actually going to pursue something seriously and they go into an audition, you're not going to worry about if you won the overall highest score at the last competition you were with, right? So that's what I meant when I said before, you can win all the high gold you want, but if you don't win any high scores, that doesn't mean you're not going to be a working professional. Sometimes you have to keep that in its perspective when you're doing dance competitions. I like to keep it as about elevating and intention and growing them, as opposed to being like, did you get first? Did you get this? Did you get that?
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's a focus that some studios have and some studios don't.
I think that's something you both touched on kind of like in this episode a lot. It's been kind of a theme that these competitions are, yes, competitions, and yes, you're getting a score, and yes, you're getting judged. But both of you have multiple times now reiterated that the growth of the dancer, taking the feedback and growing, and like you said, Kelly, elevating, is way more a part
Yeah.
of the process, and should be probably more of a focus for a dancer than I won, you know, first I won, you know, the Shake the Ground at West Palm Beach or whatever.
Right. I'll just use an example that I had. Like, I knew a girl for a long time, and she had competed quite a bit, and she's on a next level. She really is on another level with her dancing. And I said to her, I was like, it's time for you to go off and start exploring intensives, real training, and not worry so much about the competitions. And I think when you get to that level, that's where we're talking. And that's what I really stress in my classes, or when I'm doing choreography, or wherever I'm traveling, wherever I'm working with dancers. Like, it's about, again, the elevation of going up. Competitions are one stepping stone in the world of dance.
Yeah.
It's not the whole world of dance.
Yeah.
And I think that if some of the dancers and studios, they can keep that really in a nice perspective, then the growth, I think, can keep happening. Because like we said, you know, you can win all the first places you want, but if you're not growing and that's your focus, they're not going to balance out
Right.
in the end long game.
Do you think that's something that you both do you both see that maybe a bit too much, that studios are not focusing on the long term growth of the dancer, and maybe there's too much of a focus on how well competitions are going?
Well, I mean, I think it
I'll
depends.
let you go
I
first,
get to
Jonah.
go to a lot of I get to go to a lot of studios all over. So I've seen a lot of studios implementing more master classes and bringing outside choreographers, taking their kids to conventions, doing more on camera work. Like I coach for the NBA. When I see kids come to audition, they don't even know how to say their name on camera without being uncomfortable. So it's those little things that I think are important. If you're gonna have a studio, it needs to be well rounded. We're in 2025.
Yeah.
It's not about just winning a trophy no more. You should be able to host a podcast. My kids actually host the NBA games now, so they have to be like, "What's up, Nets fans?"
Oh wow.
I have to go over the script with them and rehearsals. So it's again, I'm really giving them the and Kelly's Met Boss kids. My kids are like hungry. And they all go to studios. They all go to studios during the week, but Boss Kids is like
Great.
this hub where they come once a week to get the commercial training, to meet all these different choreographers and learn more about themselves, not the studio, not the trophy. And I think that's what needs to happen. Maybe the studios create a little commercial program that is for those kids who want to go on to Broadway or want to go to do tours or be on an NBA team, because that's a different training that they need. It's not something they can do repetitively. They need to constantly be in classes and constantly be getting like different styles. So I think that that's so valuable that studios now up, you know, their programs. Don't keep it so just traditional. We're in a different market now.
Yeah. I think what you just said is really important for anybody in entertainment now. We're in 2025, and if you're just gonna like I'll say for an actor now, if you're going into the marketplace now as just an actor, I mean, good luck to you, because things are changing so much technologically that I mean, this podcast I'm doing right now, this is not something I envisioned when I started acting classes 15, 20 years ago. But it is, and now in today's age, I mean, you have to grow with the technology and with the entertainment landscape, which is changing by the day. So I think that is really important. Um, we'll get into one last question. One issue that we get behind the scenes somewhat often is the progress from a regional competition to nationals. We'll hear this student got shake the ground elite at or the regional Orlando. I did what I felt like was essentially the same routine, or I matched that. Why is it that now at nationals my score is like significantly lower? Why does that happen? Why is I think there's a natural obvious answer, but why is there a change from the regional competitions to the national competitions, and how should dancers view that and approach that and maybe frame that in their minds?
Well, I mean, the obvious thing is you're going from regionals to a nationals, right?
Yeah,
So regionals is obviously going to be smaller than a nationals, but if you've gotten to a national level, you know you have to up the ante of your routine, and the competition is going to be stiffer, harder. You don't know where all the other studios are coming from, but instead of retracting from that, you should want to run to that and excel. Do you know what I'm saying? You should want a healthy competition, but that's the thing. Nationals is just that. It's the elite of the elite that have competed in all the regionals and are picked to come and compete. So I think dancers and studio owners, when they go into that, they need to go into it with a mind of like, yes, the competition is going to be different. The judging's going to be on a higher stake level. We're looking for maybe more different, not more different things, but more technical things at nationals. It just everything ups the ante when you're going there. And I think dancers need to really be prepared for that, because when you're in a regionals, it's like being a big fish in a small pond. But now we threw you into the ocean at nationals. So
yeah. Jonah, did you want to add on to that at all?
I agree. I think what dancers forget is, yes, you place incredibly well at regionals, but your regional instructors or educators or adjudicators might be different from a whole nother panel of dancers, of educators, who are seeing it for the first time, right? So they may have a whole different view on how it was performed. And maybe you performed it extremely better at regionals than you did at nationals because you did 19 routines. So that time you performed, you was a little bit more tired.
Yeah,
It can be so many variables, but it's that's the part of being in a competition. It's just that gamble, right? You could have gotten first place one year, and then next year you got third place, because there was two other strong dancers that were there as well, right? So that's kind of part of the process. It's really just something you have to be okay with, and if anything, take it as a learning curve, and don't take it as, oh well, they should have had this person judging. Let me tell you one thing about Shake the Ground. They're not going to put anybody on that panel who is not doing great things with their careers. And that's their
correct.
what that's what they how they viewed it. That was their decision to give you that score. Um, and when you get to the real dance world, it gets even more tough. These
yeah,
choreographers are going to expect so much more. It's going to be millions of other people who can do what you can do, but can do it better. And it's not going to be about getting a trophy. It's about getting that check and getting that job. So this is setting them up to be in this business. And even if you don't want to be a dancer professionally, if you want to be a doctor, lawyer, there's always going to be competition. There's always going to be somebody who's going to be right next to you. That's extremely talented as well. So I think these young people need to stop worrying about the results and just kind of take it like, I'm walking into this process to either grow or to either walk out of here feeling like I got what I wanted. But it's never going to be what you expect. You got to earn it.
yeah, yeah.
And again, it's up to the people judging you to make that decision.
And that's true. I mean, we do
And
have.
also I think too,
You go for it.
I think also too, it's like it's very easy for people when they come to nationals to be like, oh, well, it's because they had this panel of judges on the panel. like Jonah said, you're never going to get somebody on the Shake the Ground Nationals panel that is not actively working or has been actively working and has got another career choreographer or director going on. But it's almost sometimes at that point too, like if you didn't score as well as you did at regionals, take a little bit of accountability. Ask yourself, did I do something different at nationals, or was this other group or solo a little bit better than me? And that's what you need to take to push yourself, right? Instead, I think like sometimes, we get into a complacent place of like, well, oh, well, if we had that judge or if we had this one. No, because I can guarantee you they're not going to put anybody up there that doesn't know what they're talking about.
Yeah. And like as a host and a hype man, I got to say, we do have the top names in the world of dance. I mean, when I'm at the beginning of the competition reading off your bios, it's not just empty hype. I'm reading like amazing resumes of all these judges, and I think it's important for these dancers to know that it's great for them because you're literally in front of people who have the careers that you're striving for, and I think that's really important for them to know.
Correct.
We'll do one last question. So one of my favorite parts as a host is the large group dances. I think they're so much fun, and when they hit, the crowd is going crazy. It is so much fun. How important are those dances for young dancers, or maybe the less experienced dancers who are not doing 3 or 4 solos or not doing a bunch of duo trios, and that group dance is kind of their moment of the competition? How important is it for people, for those kinds of dancers? And how should instructors approach choreography in those dancers for the wide array of experience levels and age levels you have in those big dances, those big group dances?
Well, the group dances are my favorite because it allows the team to come and be a family. And that's why I enjoy setting productions in large groups because you get to like, it's almost like all these people, you can just like do so many different things. You can start off with all 50, then you give the small ones a part, and then you give the ones that's really strong a part. But it also just creates this bond and this accomplishment as a team, and it really brings in that like family atmosphere, and to celebrate everything that they've been working on all year. So I think it's so important that they include, um, that they have those moments for the dancers, since like you said, not everybody gets to do a solo, and not everyone is the dancer who's going to be top five or whatever. It just allows for us to see the entire program. And then I think when you're creating, you have to always make sure you're highlighting everybody. Make sure everyone feels special, everyone's seen. You have your difficult sections, you have your sections that's fun, you have your sections that's like, really intricate. Just really, really like tell it. Like again, the storytelling is so consistent for me is ridiculous. I need a strong start and a strong ending.
Right.
And it needs to really level up each time the music it grows, the choreography should elevate. So that's for me is like the highlight of the weekend was when I could just see the large groups and the productions.
Nice. Kelly?
Yeah, I would agree with Jonah. The large groups and the productions are seriously my favorite. I look forward to it wrapping up the end of the weekend because that's usually where they all fall. So it's like exciting. It gets me rejuvenated. But I really like to see the camaraderie. And I feel like these group pieces and the production pieces amongst the studios, what it's doing is it's building camaraderie amongst their dancers, and it's showing maybe the younger ones what they're attaining to do to be in that specific part that the older girls are in. So I think it kind of is a nice way for studios of bonding the dancers, whether you've got your productions, which you have your 5 to 8 year olds, and then you've got your 10 to 13, and then you've got your seniors out there. When I see those type of productions in large group numbers, I just smile because that has brought their whole together. And I think it's important for the ones who might not be getting the solos or the duos to have that teamwork. Teamwork is a very huge thing when you're seeing a lot of these large production pieces and group pieces, because I see some of the stuff they're doing in the partnering, and that takes a lot of trust. I mean, so that they're doing something right in their studios, and they're working together, and then it's showing, like I said, the younger ones what they might be trying to attain to become in their studio, and that might be enough for them. You know what I mean? They might want to be the main girl in the group piece and so forth. So I just love all the large groups and the productions, but the camaraderie is, I think, the best thing for me to see when I'm watching them dance.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely my favorite part of the competition, and you can definitely tell when there is a cohesiveness, like when there is chemistry within the unit, and it is, and when they tell, a lot of times I feel like the large group dances are the best stories. They have the most interesting stories to
Yeah.
tell, and that's always so fun. So we're gonna wrap up here with some final words. If you could each give some final words, if you could just sum up and impart something into these dancers for the upcoming season. Maybe you could even think about it in terms of advice that you wish you had gotten along the way, but something just to give these dancers a little like inside information and wisdom from two of the top names in the world of dance today.
I would say from my mentor and ranking, I live by this every single day, wherever I'm working, and the joy is in the work. Always remember the joy is what you're working up to. It's not necessarily going to be the trophy that you're holding. Those are the moments that you work the hardest. You have your tears, you make the friendships, you depend on one another, your teachers are there for you. And just remember the studio is where it all happens.
Excellent. Jonah?
Well, I would like to quote the great Lorianne Gibson, Boom Cat. Strivers
Mhm.
achieve what dreamers believe. And that has been something that's been stuck in my head since I was about 15, 16 years old. You have to strive for what you believe in, and you have to make your dreams a reality. And the only way you can do that is by hard work, being a good
Hard
person,
work.
being focused, being open minded, being a team player. Because I see that's lost. Where you, even sometimes when I'm backstage, I don't see people like. If I saw like Kelly King and I was a kid, I'd be like, "Hi, Miss Kelly." They don't. Some people don't even know how to speak. Like just having more etiquette. Being just you just never know who's in front of you, and I think that that is important. I'm
Yeah.
such a big person about meeting people just randomly. I could be sitting at a store shopping and someone be like, "I like your hat," and then we just have a whole conversation and they become one of my friends. So you just always have to be a good person, have good energy, and I think that that will make you one of the most valuable people in this world, somebody who's untouchable, because that energy is hard to find. And that's what I like to promote and give anytime I'm at the Shake the Ground. I'm always making sure I give positive vibes because that's how I live my life. So that would be my quote and
Be,
ending for you
be
all.
kind too.
Yeah,
Yes, be kind too.
that
You
is
get further with kindness than you don't.
for sure. Talent can't outpace an awful person. it,
Absolutely, yes.
yeah,
You could be the most talented person in the world, but if you have a horrible attitude or a nasty attitude, a choreographer will work with the person who's going to work to try to attain what you've done because they don't want to deal with those attitudes. So all of it is about being positive, and that's how you talk to yourself too. I talk a lot about that, is how you're talking to yourself internally. When I tell dancers, you got to be positive with yourself as you would want somebody to be positive with you. You can't talk to yourself negatively because then that's what you're going to start to believe. And if you start to project that out to other dancers, that's just going to come back to you. You can get so much in this artistic world with kindness. It's crazy.
yeah.
And talent too.
That does help. That does help. That talent does help.
Yeah, that does help.
Yeah. All right. Well, Jonah, Kelly, we have talked for nearly an hour here. I cannot thank you enough for joining us. You have dropped so many gems of wisdom. We're so lucky to have you. I can't wait to see you both at the competitions and in the airports and the hotels on a weekly basis. That's all going to start soon, going out for dinners. All right, everybody, that has been episode 2 of The Dancer's Beat. I'd like to once again thank my amazing guests, Kelly King and Jonah Biddle. Thank them so much. They had
Legend.
wisdom, so much information to help dancers grow. And yeah, that's been episode 2 of The Dancer's Beat. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Brett, for having us so much. It's so good to see you, and I will see you really soon.
I can't wait.
See you soon.
Bye.
All right, see you.
Bye.